In this video, I'm going to answer Mathematics Paper 1 2023 internal from 21 up to question 23. So the question reads, write the three inequalities that define the unshaded region R. So when they say unshaded region R, which means the part which is not shaded, suppose we have the line like this one here. Then if I shade this part here, now unshaded, it is this part here. Now, on this XY plane, we have two types of lines. We have this line here which is called a solid line. Even this one here, it is also called a solid line. Then we also have this line here which is called a dotted line. Now after knowing the lines, you need to know the symbols to use when you have been given a dotted line or when you have been given a solid line. So let me start with the dotted lines. So as for dotted lines, we use greater than or less than. So these two symbols are only applicable to dotted lines. So which means, as for this line here, we are going to use greater than or less than, depend on the part which is not shaded. Then let's come to solid lines. So for solid lines, we use greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So even these two symbols are applicable to solid lines. So whenever you have been given a solid line like this one here, which means you need to use one of these. It can be either this one or this one here, depend on the part which is not shaded or unshaded region. So let's answer the questions. So in answering this question, it is not a mandate that you need to start with this one here. You can start with any of the line that you want. You can start with this one here or this one here, whichever way you like. So let's start with this one here. So the first thing, I'm going to identify the line. So this one is a solid line, okay? So which means I need to use greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, depend on the part which is not shaded. Then apart from that one, I need also to identify on the axis in which this line here cuts. So this line cuts in the y-axis here. So I'm going to write y-axis. Now, this line here, it is cutting at which number? It is cutting at 6. What I'm going to do here is like this. Are the numbers down here less than or equal to or greater than or equal to? Since this one is a solid line, which means we need to use greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So all these numbers, suppose 5 is here. Now is 5 going to be less than or equal to 6 or greater than or equal to 6? So 5 is less than or equal to what? 6, which means here we need to use less than or equal to. Now at which number is this line cutting? It is cutting at what? 6. So we need to say 6. So this one is our first inequality. Let's answer the next one. So we have the first inequality, which is y is less than or equal to 6. This one is our first one. Then the second one, we can choose this one here. Okay. So as for this one here, we need to correct the coordinates. So let's correct the coordinate at this point here. So this line here, it is cutting at 6 in the y-axis. Now in the y-axis, x is equal to 0. So we are just going to say 0,6 at this point here, because the coordinates, they obey the layout of x, y, which means the first value is going to be the value for x, then the second one is going to be the value for y. Then for this one, it is cutting at 3 in the x-axis. So we are going to have 3, now in the x-axis, y is equal to 0. So it is 3, 0. Even this one is going to be the value for x, and this one is going to be the value for y. So when you're finding the inequality, the first thing you need to find an equation. Then at the end now, you come up with the inequality. So the first thing here, we are going to use this formula, which is y minus y1 is equal to gradient, open bracket, x minus x1, then close. So now, since we know that gradient is given by y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So in the place of this gradient here, we are just going to put this y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1 in the place of the gradient. So now let's try to label now these coordinates. See? So this one is going to be our x1, Then this one is going to be our y1. This one is going to be our x2, and this one is going to be our y2. Okay, so let's answer the question. So we have y, which we don't have. Then our y1, it is this one here, which is 6. So on y1, we need to put 6 is equal to, so gradient is given by y2. What is our y2 here? Our y2 in this case, it is 0. So we are going to say 0 minus. Then y1, it is 6, which is this one. Then divided by x2. x2, it is 3, which is this one. Minus x1, it is 0. So x1 is 0. Then open bracket, we don't have x. What about our x1? Our x1, it is 0. So we need to put 0 here. Then close. Then from there now we are just going to do the assumption. So 0 minus here, 0 minus 6, it is negative 6. Then 3 minus 0, it is just 3. So on this part here, we are just remaining with negative 6 divided by what? By 3. So let's do that in place of all these. So here we are just having negative 6 divided by positive 3. And then from there now, we are just going to say 3 into negative 6, that is negative 2. So here we are going to have y minus 6 is equal to negative 2. Then open bracket, x minus 0, then close. So this negative 2 is going to multiply with everything inside the what? The brackets. So here we are going to have y minus 6 is going to be equal to negative 2 multiplied by x. We are going to get negative 2x. Then negative 2 multiplied by 0. We are just going to get 0. So therefore, we need to correct the like terms. Negative 6 is going to cross an equal sign, and then it is going to change to a positive 6. So here we are going to remain with y. Y is going to be equal to negative 2x plus 6. Now this one here, it is the equation, not the inequality, right? This one here is just the equation, not an inequality. So we need to change the symbol here. Now, let's see the part which is not shaded. It is this part here. Now what defines the inequality? It is y. It is part y. So now, is this part here which is not shaded greater than or equal to or less than or equal to? So it is greater than or equal to. So we are just going to say y is greater than or equal to negative 2x plus 6. So this one here is our second inequality. So let's answer the last one. So the third one. So the third one is a dotted line. So which means we need to use greater than or less than. So now we have the coordinates like 2, 2 and also 6, 6. Now since here we are having same coordinates like 2, 2, unless you have something like 2, 3, which means you need to use now the same equation that we used to answer this inequality here. Now since here we are having the same coordinates, which means we are just going to say y is going to be equal to what? X. Now is the part which is not shaded here greater than or less than? I was saying, what defines the inequality? It is y. So is this part here greater than or less than? It is greater than. So which means on this part here we need to put what? Greater than. So we can say y is greater than what? X. That's so. So now let me show you what is happening here. So this one is a shortcut way of answering this one here. Now let me show you what is happening here. So we are just going to say this one is going to be our x1, and this one is going to be our y1, this one is going to be our x2, and this one is going to be our y2. Okay, so let's do this. Y minus y1. So y1 here, it is 2, which is this one here. then is equal to the gradient. Now the gradient here is given by y2 minus y1. So y2, it is this one, which is 6. Then y1, it is 2. Okay, so it is 2 over x2, it is 6. Then x1, it is 2. So it is 6 minus what? 2. Open bracket, we don't have x minus x1, we have, which is what? 2. So we have 2, then close bracket. So from there now, 6 minus 4, let me say 6 minus 2, 6 minus 2 here, we are going to get what? 4. Even here, 6 minus 2, we are going to get what? 4. 4 divided by 4, we are going to get 1. So in the place of this, of all these, we are just going to say 1. That's all. So we are having y minus 2 is going to be equal to what? 1 open bracket, x minus 2 close. Then from there now, y minus 2 is going to be equal to 1 multiplied by x, we need to get x. Then 1 multiplied by negative 2, that is negative 2. So we need to correct the right terms. This negative 2 is going to close an equal sign, and then it is going to change to a positive 1. So we are going to have y is going to be equal to x minus 2 plus 2. Now x, or negative 2 plus 2, these two things, we are going to get what? 0. So therefore, y is going to be equal to what? To x. Now the part which is not shaded here, is it greater than or less than? It is greater than. So just say y is greater than what? X, which is y is greater than what? X. Let's move on to the next one. So the next one is saying, which is question A. Solve the equation. So we have x to the power 2 is equal to 4, open bracket, x minus 3 to the power 2. So this 2 here is just part of x minus 1, x minus 3. This 2 here is just part of x minus 3. So what we are going to do here, we are just going to introduce the what? The square root to both sides. So once I introduce the square root to both sides, these 2 and the square root, they are going to cancel each other. And these 2 and the square root, they are going to cancel each other. Now remember, we need also to find the square root of what? 4. Now the square root of 4 is just what? 2. So here we are remaining with x is equal to the square root of 4, it is 2. Then the square root of x minus 3 to the power 2, it is x minus 3. Okay, so x minus 3, x minus 3. Then from there now, we need to multiply 2 with everything inside the brackets. So 2 multiplied by x, we are going to get 2x. Then 2 multiplied by negative 3, we are going to get negative 6. Then from there now, we correct the right terms. So 2 is going to close an equal sign, 2x is going to close an equal sign, and it is going to change to negative 2x. Then here we are going to remain with negative 6. Here, we are going to have negative x, x minus 2x is negative x, is equal to negative 6. Now, since here we are finding the value of x, not negative x, so here we need to divide by negative 1, even here we need to divide by negative 1. So therefore, the value of x is just going to be positive 6. So this is the value for x. Let's answer question B. B is saying the diagram shows the sketch of the graph of y is equal to negative 4x minus x to the power 2, cutting the x-axis at A and B. So we have the curve, which is this one here. Now what you need to know here is that the x-axis, it has two sides, the positive side and also the negative side. And at this point here, that is the origin, which is 0, 0. So B, it is 0, 0. That is one thing that you need to understand. So the first question is saying, find the coordinates of Roman numeral number 1, A. So we need to find the coordinates of what? A. So let's do that. So A is in the x-axis. A is in the x-axis. and we have been given the equation which is y is equal to negative 4x minus x to the power 2. So, in the x-axis, y is equal to what? 0. So, in the place of y, we are just going to put 0 so that this one becomes an equation, which is 0 is equal to 4x, negative 4x minus x to the power 2. So, this is the equation that we are going to use now to find the values for x or the value for x. So, we have negative 4x minus x to the power 2 being equal to what? 0. So, what we are going to do here, we need to factorize here what is common. So, what is common in these two here, it is just negative x. So, once I factor out negative x, here I'm going to have just 4. Then from there now, negative x into negative x to the power 2, we are going to get positive x is equal to what? 0. So we need to solve these equations. So we can say negative x is equal to 0, or we can say 4 plus x is equal to what? 0. So definitely this one here we are just going to get what? 0. So it's 0. X is equal to what? 0. Because even if you divide here, whereby you say negative divided by negative 1, even here divided by negative 1, so that this negative and this negative cancels each other, then you remain with x. You are going to say x is going to be given by, then negative 1 into 0, definitely you are going to get what? 0. Then on this part here, when this positive 4 crosses an equal sign, it is going to change to a negative. So here we are remaining with x, and when positive 4 crosses an equal sign, it is going to change to a negative. Now, one thing that you need to know is that at b, b is the origin. So which means the value of x at b is just going to be 0. And also the value of y is just going to be what? 0. So these are the coordinates for b. Then the coordinates for a. Since this one is the negative side for x-axis and this one is the positive side for the x-axis, and definitely here we have gotten the correct answer, which is negative 4. So which means this one is just going to be negative 4, 0, which is the coordinates for what? A. So you need to say A open bracket negative 4, 0. Why are we saying A open bracket negative 4, 0? This is because in the x-axis, y is equal to what? 0. In the x-axis, y is equal to what? 0. And coordinates, they obey the layout of x, what? Y. Which means the value of x in this case, it is what? Negative 4. Then the value of y in the x-axis is just what? 0. So the coordinates for A are just going to be negative 4, 0. That's all. Then the last one, which is Roman numeral number 2. The turning point of the graph. So to find the turning point of the graph, the first thing you need to find the x value, which is the line of symmetry. This one here. The line of symmetry. So what we are going to do, for us to find the line of symmetry is given by x is equal to negative b over 2a. This is the formula that you can use to find the line of symmetry, or the x value for the line of symmetry. Now, we are going to use our equation to find the value of x. So we can say y is given by, so we need to make sure that this one here obeys the layout of a quadratic equation. So quadratic equation is given by ax to the power 2 plus bx plus c is equal to what? 0. So we need to make sure that this one here also obeys the layout of a quadratic. So here I'm just going to start with the number with the variable to the highest power of 2. So it is negative what? Negative x to the power 2. Then followed by the number which is having the variable to the highest power of 1, which is negative 4x. So we have negative 4x. Then in this case here, the constant number, which is c, it is just 0. So when you don't have a constant number, just know that you are having what? A 0. So I have expressed this one here into a quadratic layout. So now it's up to me now to choose the value for A, B, and C. So since this equation, for me to find the value of x, I need to select the value for B and also the value for A. So what is the value of A in this case here? The value of A here, it is -1. Then the value of B, it is this one here, which is negative what? -4. So let's answer that one. Now, since in this formula, we are having a negative, so we need to put a negative. Then the value of B, definitely it is -4. So you need to be very, very careful with a negative here. Divided by 2. Then the value of A, it is -1. So therefore, negative multiplied by -4, we need to get +4. So x is going to be given by +4 divided by, then 2 multiplied by -1, it is -2. Then the value of x is just going to be negative what? -2, because -2 into +4, that is -2. So this one here is the value of x at this point here, which is the x-intercept. Now let's find the y-intercept in this case here, at this point here for the turning point. So to find the value of x, we need to use the original equation. So we have y is given by, we have -4. Then where there is x, we need to plug in -2. So here we are having x, we need to plug in -2. Minus. Then here we are having x to the power 2. We need to plug in -2. Then we set to the power 2. Then from there now, y is going to be given by -4 multiplied by -2. That is +8. Then let's deal first with this one here. -2 to the power 2. That is +4. So we have minus, which is this one here. Then inside here we are getting +4, which means this negative multiplied by +4 inside, we are going to get -4. Therefore, the value for y is just going to be +4? Because 8 minus 4, that is what? 4. Now, at the end, you need to say the turning point is given by, so turning point is expressed in form of the coordinates. So the value for x at this point here, which is the line of symmetry, it is -2. So you say -2. Then comma, the value of y at this point here, it is which one? Negative. Let me say +4. So you need to say +4, then close bracket. So therefore, the turning point at this point here, it is just -2, 4. That's all. Let's move on to the last one. Question 23 reads, the diagram shows the speed time graph of a car during a period of t seconds. So t is the total time taken for the journey or for the entire journey. So the first question is saying find the question A, acceleration of the car during the first 8 seconds. So during the first seconds, what was happening here, it is just acceleration. So acceleration is given by the change. So when I use a triangle, I just mean change in speed over change in time. So now in this case here, we are finding acceleration. So acceleration is going to be equal to the change in velocity or speed. It is this one here, which is the final velocity, which is 9. So we are going to say 9 meters per second. Then divided by change in time. So in this case here, they are saying in the first 8 seconds. So we need to divide by 8 seconds. Then our answer is just going to be, so in this case, 8 into 9, we need to get 1 over 8 meters per second squared. So this one is coming from when you say 8 multiplied by 1, that is 8 plus 1, that is 9 over 8. Or if you want, you can say acceleration is equal to 8 into 9, that is 1. Remainder, 1. 8 into 1, it can't. So you need to put a point. So you put a point, then you add a 0. 8 into 10, that is 1. Remainder, 2. Then you add a 0. 8 into 20, that is 2, remainder 4. Then you put a 0 also. 8 into 40, that is 5. So you say acceleration is equal to 1.125 meters per second squared if you want. Then question B. Distance covered in the first 14 seconds. So the distance covered in the first 14 seconds. So the area under the graph is equal to the distance traveled by an object. So we need to identify the type of, the shape of this one here. Okay, so this shape here, it is called a trapezium. So trapezium is given by, so we can just say distance, because the area under the graph is equal to the distance. So it is given by half, open bracket, a plus b, close, multiplied by the height. So in this case here, the value for a and b comes from the parallel lines. So the parallel lines, we have this one and also this one. Okay. So what we are going to do here, we are just going to say distance is going to be equal to 1 over 2. Then the value, since here we are starting from 8 up to 14, so we are just going to say 14 minus 8. Then we are going to get 6 plus the value for b, it is from 0 up to 14, so it is just 14 itself. Then the height, it is from this point up to this point, which is this one here, which is 9. So the height here, it is just 9. Then distance is going to be equal to, we are going to say 6 plus 14, we are going to get 20. Then 20 multiplied by this one here, we are going to get 20 divided by 2 multiplied by 9, in this case here. Now 2 into 20, we are going to get 10. So 10 multiplied by 9. 10 multiplied by 9, we need to get 90. So our distance here is just going to be 90 meters. Now this distance, it is from 0 up to 14, not from 0 up to t. Okay? It is from 0 up to 14, not from 0 up to t. So that is our answer. Let us come to question C. So question C, you need to pay attention to this question. So it is saying, we need to find the value of t if the average speed of the car is 7 meters per second. So the average speed is given by the total distance over the total time taken in this case. Now, the total distance, it is the distance from t. Then the total time taken, it is just t itself. So in this case here, we have been given the average speed, which is 7. So we need to put the average speed here. Okay? We need to put the average speed here. Then after that, the total distance. Do we have the total distance? We don't have. We only have the distance from 0 up to 14. So we can easily find the total distance. Now, since we know that the distance from 0 up to 14, it is 90 meters. So we can just find the distance from 14 up to t seconds. So also here, I'm just going to do likewise. What shape is this one? It is a trapezium. So a trapezium is given by distance is equal to half. Then multiplied by, let me say, open bracket, a plus b multiplied by the height. So in this case here, our a, it is the distance from this point up to this one, which is 7. So we're just going to say 7, then plus. The value for b, it is from this point up to this point here, which is what? 9. So we're going to say 9, then close bracket. Then the value of t, So since we don't know the value of t, what we are going to do here, we are just going to say t minus what? 14. Okay? So we need to say t minus 14. T minus 14. Then close. Then from there now, we are just going to say distance is going to be equal to 7 plus 9. We need to get 16. So here we have 16 multiplied by 1. We are going to get 16 divided by 2. Then we can say open bracket t minus 14, then close. From there now we are just going to say distance is going to be equal to 16 multiplied by t. We are going to get 16t. Then minus 16 multiplied by negative 14. So 16 multiplied by negative 14. So let's do likewise. 16 multiplied by negative 14. 4 multiplied by 6, we need to get 24. That is 4 remainder 2. Then 4 multiplied by 1, we need to get 4 plus 2. That is going to get 12, which is 2 remainder 1. Then here we are going to get what? 2. So our answer here, it is just what? 224 divided by 2, which is this one here. So we need to reduce these numbers here. So we're just going to say 2 into 16 and 2 into 224. So 2 into 16, t, we need to get 8t, minus 2 into 224, we need to get t, 112. Okay, so distance is equal to 112. Distance is equal to what? 112. Now this distance here, which is 8t minus 112, it is the distance from 14 up to t. Okay? Now, when you are calculating the average speed, it is the total distance divided by the total time taken. So, 8t minus 12 is not the total distance. So, we need to add with it plus 90 so that it becomes the total distance. So, let's do likewise. So we are going to say the total distance is going to be equal to, we have 8t minus 112 plus 90 meters. That is our total distance. And then when we do the computation here, we are going to have 8t, then minus 22, because 112 plus 90, that is negative 22. So this one is our total distance. Now let's find the value of t, since this one is our total distance. So we are going to say average speed, it is 7 in this case here. The average speed, it is 7, equal to the total distance. In this case here, the total distance, it is 8t minus 22 divided by the total time taken. So in this case here, the total time taken from 0 up to t, it is just t. So we need to divide by t. Then we cross multiply. So t multiplied by 7, we are going to get 7t is equal to 8t minus 22. And then from there now, we need to correct the right terms. So this one is positive 8t. When it crosses an equal sign, it is going to change to negative 8t. So we have 7t minus 8t being equal to negative 22. Then from there now, positive 7t minus 8t, we need to get negative t is equal to negative 22. So we are finding the value of t, not negative t. So we need to divide this one by 1, which is negative 1. Even here by negative 1. So negative and negative, they are going to cancel each other. Negative and negative, they are going to cancel each other. So therefore, the value of t is just going to be 22 seconds. So you need to put s at the end. So that is the value of t, seconds, which is 22 seconds, or just 22. So that was the last one. Thanks for watching.